Now, there once was a time where, depending on the political party that got in, people felt things were safe for Christians or not safe. I think the recent bill going through about abortion has made people question some of that in New South Wales. But amongst all this, there are obviously some Christians working hard to help improve the situation, to help refine the laws. What are some of the things that are happening currently at state and federal level where Christians are trying to help change the legislation in a positive way?
Okay, so all the stuff we're doing on the Religious Discrimination Act and the follow-on bits. So there's going to be, after we've just described the Religious Discrimination Act process to you, the next cab off the rank will be Law Reform Commission, Australian Law Reform Commission inquiry into those exemptions that I talked about for religious bodies and religious schools, as to whether they would be able to have a hiring freedom for teachers and ministers and staff, and to continue to have conduct policies in their schools and their churches and their synagogues and their mosques, which upheld traditional religious values, even if they were thought to be inconsistent with the modern thoughts about, sexual orientation, equality and gender identity and things like that. So that's coming up. That's the next piece, and there's lots of groups who are working on that, and that's federal. In the states, it's a constant battle. It's a constant battle fighting against people who are pushing on these things. So earlier this year, I was in Tasmania with people from, or involved in a Tasmanian debate with the people from the Australian Christian Lobby, because in Tasmania they passed a law allowing you to change your birth certificate at any time, because you've now decided you're going to identify as a different gender, or to have no gender on your birth certificate. So you can, a 30-year-old man, and I can say, oh no, my birth certificate should actually say female because this year I'm feeling female, or it should say nothing. Now that's not, that creates a fiction. It might lead to a discrimination claim, because someone then says, well, this is a women-only facility. Oh, here you go, I'm a woman. That causes all sorts of problems if you're a man now identifying as a woman, and that you don't have to have gender surgery, you don't have to have hormone therapy or anything. You can just say, I'm identifying as a woman and I've changed my birth certificate, let me in.
So, and we've had a case just like this recently with a women's refuge centre it was a women's centre helping drug addicts in a residential program. And I've been involved in these programs. I was a chairman of one for men in Western Australia, and it's very important that you provide a safe and robust space, particularly for women who've usually suffered abuse and all sorts of sexual dysfunction alongside their drug use.
And they don't want to see a man a man presenting or identifying as a woman turning up with the full anatomical regalia of a man.
So this organisation had a biological man who's suffering from gender dysphoria present and say, I need to be part of this residential program so I can deal with my drug habit. They went through the interview process. They used the preferred name and the preferred pronouns. They said, look, this is for women who are very vulnerable. This is a program that is for biological women. However, we do have a day program that would be suitable for you. And yet, this person was incensed when they were turned down. Even though they were given other options, they were treated with respect and dignity, and the lawyer was immediately on the phone threatening a discrimination claim, and is still waiting to see if that discrimination claim is going to eventuate. But it puts them under immense pressure, and it exposes them to having to spend their time and their emotional energy and their money on defending a claim, when that money is best spent trying to help women get off drugs.
And so, David, the number of these cases and issues is large, and it's increasing. In Victoria, I would imagine the Andrews government will try again to remove the hiring freedoms of religious bodies and religious schools, as they did in 2016. We fought a very hard campaign against that in Victoria, and it was defeated in the upper house. Do you know what the voting margin was in the upper house? You probably wouldn't. You're in New South Wales. I'll tell you, it was defeated in the upper house, 19 votes all. 19 for and 19 against. That is to say, because there was a tie, it was lost. But if one vote had shifted, churches would not have been able to require that anyone other than the senior minister be a Christian. True. In Northern Territory, they are proposing to remove the same hiring freedoms. In Western Australia, there is a move to do the same thing. They have removed some of those freedoms already in Tasmania and Queensland. This is an ongoing campaign, and you asked, who can do what? Well, those of us who labour in this field feel, I'm not going to compare myself to an evangelist. I think evangelism has far greater, long-term consequences, but I do feel the labourers are few. Okay? So John and I and other people here are out there doing our best in this space. We need Christians, rank and file Christians, indeed rank and file religious people on some of these issues, to stand up and to tell their MPs, we still live in a democracy, tell your MPs you are concerned about these issues. Because, if you don't stand up for Israel Folau and, think things about that, you don't stand up for this person, it's coming to a school near you. It's coming to a job near yours. It's not going to go away. And the only way we're going to protect our freedoms is if we stand up and fight for them. And happily, we're in a democracy and we have the right to stand up and say, this is a free country and I should be able to state and live by my views, and my church should be able to live by its lights as well. And the Muslims over there in their mosque, they should be able to live by their lights in their mosque when they're teaching their stuff as well. Because religious freedom is freedom for all, and religions just disagree. But if we want to live in a free country, we have to stand up for our rights. We have to talk to our MPs, and there'll be someone coming up to talk to you a bit later about how to do that. So there are labourers. We need support from the masses.
And I think we can learn from the LGBTQ activists and the agenda that they've had over the years. So when I look at the Sex Discrimination Act, for instance, which was the subject of the Penny Wong bill, where they wanted to remove all of the exemptions, that started out 30 years ago, 40 years ago as
83, I think. Yep.
83, as a Sex Discrimination Act.
Just on gender, no discrimination
Just
based on gender.
On gender, males and females. Now, that was the first step that over 30 years, other protected attributes were added in by activists who controlled the narrative in the press, who said, these are the targeted changes that we want to that act. Now, when that act was passed, religious freedom was protected by what? Exemptions. And those exemptions are expressed in ways that are very problematic for Christians. I look at those exemptions and I say, who in their right mind would put these exemptions together in this way? This is not properly reflective of what Christians are and what we're trying to do. It makes us sound like we're a bunch of bigots who don't want to be covered by the law. But no one in the Christian voice was sitting there saying, over the next 30 years, we need to target this and make it better reflect what it is that Christians actually want. We just said, hey, we're covered by exemptions. They're not great. I mean, they do the job, but we don't have a vision to actually make them properly reflect our positive rights to live in accordance with our beliefs, to teach what we believe, and to do so in groups together, in our schools, in our churches. So we've been sitting down, watching, while others have slowly turned these acts and changed them and transformed them into something that protects a whole broad range of attributes. We need to be doing that same thing.
Sure. And I think one of the things that's been powerful that the other lobbyists have used is telling those personal stories.
Yes.
Yes.
And bringing people to the media and saying, I'm hurt by this, I'm offended by this.
Yeah.
That's a very powerful thing.